Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Craig, it's almost Cougar football Saturday.
Hashtag beat LA.
Beat LA. It's
Beat LA. Isn't that how it is?
FUCLA. FUCLA.
That's more of a USC's thing, right? Or
we did that back in
really?
97.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 97, 99. I remember. And we got like lots of people clutching their pearls over that one back in the late 90s.
Yeah. Well, this is
Anyway.
Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me is Jeff Newser, and this is your UCLA preview.
Oof. Big scary Bruins.
Yeah, those
The
big
baby
scary
bears.
Bruins.
The big scary baby bears.
Of which are 19-point underdogs to our Washington State Cougars.
Yeah.
My goodness. I don't know what the biggest deficit or the biggest spread for WSU over UCLA ever is, but that has to be pretty dang close.
I mean, we're all speculating this has got to be the biggest spread ever for WSU against an LA school. Like, that seems like a no-brainer, given the history of that particular series against those two schools.
Yeah, it's bananas. But as we'll get into it over the next 30 to 40 minutes, it makes sense.
Yeah. And UCLA also has the distinction of being maybe the school that our players have talked the most shit about over the years.
Yes, I would say so. And then, I mean, if you look at the all-time record, I think it's like 20-40. It's a lot better than against USC.
Yeah.
Obviously, USC's had a way better program than UCLA. But I think even recent history, Wolf years accepted, there's quite a, WSC's actually played UCLA pretty damn well. Like, Bill Doba beat UCLA, and we beat UCLA in the good years. And it's just, and recently, last two times we faced UCLA, victories, including that dramatic one in 2015, and then that rain-soaked one that looked closer than it actually was in 2016.
Yeah.
Or 2017, whatever year that was. 2016 probably.
By the way,
so it hasn't felt like, well, and it's felt like, it's been unfortunate that the last 2 years that we've missed UCLA, even though we damn near we should have beaten USC twice. But it's now that UCLA is that program, they're just not in a good place, which is kind of surprising to me, given like their recruiting has still been good this year. So far, not so good, but up until now, top 20 recruiting, top 15 recruiting classes every year. Jim Moore was generally in that range, and so you'd think they'd have the talent to just at least be mediocre, but last year and this year they were just objectively bad.
Yeah, their recruiting class last year wasn't that good though either. I'm looking it up real quick.
I saw it was 19th on
Let's see.
247 Sports, 19th rated, fourth in Pac-12.
So that may have been the 2018 class, because the 2019 class was rated 6th.
Oh.
They only signed 21 kids. They didn't take a full class. And they only had one 4-star kid out of that class. So, yeah, it's like his first class was small. His second class was small. I think I saw somewhere that he has only something like 75 kids on scholarship or something like that right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
right.
true or not, because nobody ever really knows. But
which is about 13 less than, I think 88 is
it's 85. 85 is the max. Yeah,
80. So 85, but yeah, so that's surprising. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. But I still think they're just based on what they have on scholarship,
they should be better than
they
they
should
are.
be better than
like
they
that's
are.
not that's not really something that's debatable.
But that's kind of like a historical, like historically how UCLA has been. Like they don't typically live up to the players they have on their roster.
Well, like Leon Bender said, they go to Westwood and they get soft.
Well, yeah, and like you know, Gabe Marks. Talking about them being fake tough guys. With Jim Moore, it was peak. It was like peak
that was
UCLA.
peak fake. That was peak UCLA.
Just like wearing black to look tough.
We're so tough. I want a bunch of dirt bags.
Yeah, and just taking shots at Luke Falk's head, and you know, just fake tough guys all around.
Yep.
You know, we have a lot of SoCal kids, and they love playing UCLA.
Yeah.
They love playing USC. I think. It's actually because, you know, under Wolf, they focused more on the Bay Area and like Fresno area.
Yep.
But you know, immediately under Leach, they've kind of refocused back to SoCal.
Yeah.
And
they seem to have spread out a little bit in the last couple of years, but yeah, still, Southern California is always going to be the foundation. You know, for any Pac-12 school that excels, the foundation's going to be kids that they get from Southern California. So
yeah, and so that means, and our guys generally are from SoCal, but didn't get offers from USC and UCLA. Yep. So they love playing those schools.
Yep.
You know, that's the schools they grew up watching, and then they didn't get an offer from them, and now they can go beat them. You know, so
they love sticking it to them.
Yeah. So that's, you know, I think that's why probably, you know, UCLA has gotten nipped by WSU more than it thinks it should. And probably why they get nipped by a lot of teams more than they think they should. Also, yeah, I just think I think there's some truth to what Bender said. Like they're a little soft in SoCal. They might have expectations for what they deserve. But anyways, so let's get into this game.
Yeah.
Into why WSU is 19-point favorites. Bill Connolly's SP Plus has them at 17-point favorites. So no matter how you slice it, WSU big favorites here. So just a general overview. UCLA is 62nd on deep. So they are 78th overall in SP Plus, 87th on offense, 62nd on defense. Once we get into some of the stats, it's kind of surprising that they're even 87th. But then given they've played actually some surprisingly good defenses so far. And then WSU took a little bit of hit on their defense after Houston. So they dropped to 66th from, I believe they were 62nd before, but they're still there at 12th on offense. So they're still cooking with an elite offense there. So you just look at those numbers, and obviously WSU, you see why they're has the advantage, but let's get into UCLA's offense. One of the first things I noticed, you know, because you and I both look at yards per play quite a bit. It's kind of a quick and dirty metric. There's obviously other things that impact a game, but it's kind of a quick and dirty metric to kind of see like the if you break it down to the core of what's successful in football, it's how well you move against the other team or how well you prevent the other team from moving.
Yep.
And UCLA is dead last in the entire FBS in yards per play,
which is absolutely bizarre. Like, I mean, they've played a somewhat tough schedule.
So San Diego State actually in SP Plus, their defense, I believe, is 6th.
Yeah, they've had a strong defense there for a few years
and
now.
Then Cincinnati generally has a pretty strong D. But still like 4.1 yards per play.
This is Chip Kelly. This is, you know, the inventor of, you know, the Oregon offense that, you know, just annihilated everyone. And yet nothing. And there was an interesting story in the LA Times, you know, just kind of talking about how he was pushing back against this notion, like about why they don't look more like they used to look like at Oregon. But, you know, and he's like, football changes, football evolves. I don't know why you guys are asking me that. And I'm like, well, you know, yes, that might be true. However, what you are doing bears no resemblance to what you did at Oregon. Like it's pretty wild. They play super slow. Obviously they incorporate some RPOs and things like that. Not that RPOs were in vogue back when he was at Oregon, but they don't play at the breakneck pace. That's sort of the big defining thing that they don't do. And they just look sort of lost. I was watching the UCLA Oklahoma game today. I watched most of the Cincinnati game when it happened. And they just looked like they looked like a young team that didn't quite know what they were doing. They made some they really didn't get beat that badly in that game. They just had some really devastating turnovers, and they just sort of looked like an opening game. But then to go out and really, get handled pretty good by San Diego State. And not that, obviously they should have been able to hang with Oklahoma. Oklahoma's really, really, really good. I mean, there's a reasonable chance Oklahoma might be the best team in the country. I mean, that's when we're talking about the best teams in the country, it's Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and maybe Georgia. Right. And so they're very, very good. They're a cut above, but still, UCLA looked like they just were lost. And, I don't know how you go any direction with that other than coaching. And I know that, it takes time to turn stuff around and whatever, but man, when you take over and you're worse in your second year than your first, that's usually a pretty bad sign. And then when the thing that you're known for is terrible, their offense is easily the weaker of the two units. That's the part where you just kind of shake your head and go, what is Chip Kelly doing?
Yeah, it's like once I was digging, I knew it was going to look bad when I dig in the numbers, but it's a lot worse. And
it's bad.
And there's the context of playing two good defenses, and an Oklahoma defense is probably better than it's getting credit for right now. It probably has improved. We were kind of suspect on it, but I think they're probably a lot better than they were last year. But it's just to not even be able to move the ball, and not even be able to run the ball very effectively either. And that's Chip Kelly's thing. That's what made him good at Oregon was running the ball. The quick pace and just running the ball with these athletic offensive linemen and just pounding people into the ground, and people like these lightning quick drives that were like 7 rushes, that was him. And they're still running the ball more than they pass the ball. He's still on that. He's still rushing focused, but man, oh man, they have not ran the ball very well. So obviously with sacks involved, it's 105 carries for 234 yards. I think they've given up 9 sacks, which is quite a lot considering they've only have 87 pass attempts. So you're looking at a sack every 10 dropbacks or so.
Yeah, that's bad.
That is really bad. I think if WSU did that, picking up 6 sacks a game, which maybe early in Leach's tenure that happened a lot, but. But yeah, so I think they've given up 9 sacks for roughly 90 yards. So you're looking at even if you take that out of it, they're not running the ball that well. They don't have any particular rusher that has been all that successful against. So they didn't have their top rusher, Joshua Kelly, who had a very good season last year, 5.5 yards a carry, 1,200 plus yards, 12 touchdowns. He was out for the first game. And he has really struggled to get back in it the second game. He's 33 carries, 104 yards. That's it through the first 2 games. I think we'll see him get the ball a lot more. It was so desperate for them. They put a wide receiver at running back the first game. I gave him 23 carries.
That's bad.
And that was Demetric Felton. And so he's still gotten some carries in the next couple games, but it was only 5 against Oklahoma. But he did go for 65 on that, and he is averaging 13 yards a catch. I think Felton's probably your explosive guy to worry about. Really the only one I've truly seen. But Kelly, I would expect him to be kind of getting back into it a little more. It depends on how well they block, honestly, but the one thing that gives me a little pause is that they're going to run the ball more. And we saw with Houston, they were able to kind of chew clock and limit possessions, particularly in the first half. And we saw that with Northern Colorado as well at times. So I'm guessing that UCLA is going to try to do the same. So are you worried at all that UCLA could kind of keep it close by just, kind of churning out some like 3rd and 2s and going down the field and keeping the clock rolling?
I'm not particularly worried about that, but I will say that if that happens, then I will probably start to be like, okay, maybe we have a problem. Obviously I wrote on Monday or Tuesday or whenever it came out about, just kind of being on schedule, right? Okay. So they weren't great against the rush in the second game. In the third game, they were not good in the first half. And I think how not good they were in the first half was even overstated a little bit, right? Because the first 2 drives were sort of grinding drives. Mm-hmm. It was really only the third drive that was sort of like, explosive run after explosive run. And then, of course, the last drive that Houston had when I think the defense sort of let off the gas a little bit. I think they anticipated that Houston was going to go ahead and throw the ball, and then they didn't. And then it was like, oh, no, they're just going to keep running. And then they were breaking off, 10-yard runs. But if we don't come out in the first half of this one controlling the line of scrimmage, I think I'll be concerned because UCLA does not, I think, do anything that should frighten us or that should give us a particular amount of problem. I mean, I think when we kind of look at the whole package of Houston, De'Aaron King is a better running quarterback than Thompson Robinson. The running backs were better at Houston. Dana Holgerson's a better offensive mind than Chip Kelly at this point. I mean, I just think that there's, whatever, advantages Houston had. And then, now you're 3 games deep, right? Like, I mean, I don't think they're pulling any tricks out of their bag anymore. I think Houston may have done some things that, I mean, I'm obviously no coach, but I think Houston may have done some things, thrown in some wrinkles, things like that, that you can do, particularly when, they played their second game against, a pretty terrible opponent. There was a sense, I think the Houston guy that Michael had on his show said that maybe there was a sense that they were kind of holding some things back. UCLA hasn't held anything back. Like they tried to win that Cincinnati game. I presume they tried to win the San Diego State game. And, I presume they did sort of whatever they could against UCLA to do, or against Oklahoma, to move the ball. And so I don't anticipate there will be any wrinkles. I think that they will be able to do it. Now, maybe they will do kind of what you're saying, where they're going 3 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards over and over again. And that's certainly possible. But I think the defense is well positioned to hold that running game in check and really have sort of the dominant defensive performance out of the gate that I think our fans are clamoring for. So
you're thinking this will be a dominant looking performance? I
think so.
Let's just say what's a point total? If all things remaining, regular. Not any pick sixes or anything,
sure.
But from the defensive end.
From the defensive end, UCLA's put up 14 points in 3 straight games, so 14 or less, something like that.
All right, I'm probably leaning towards they might get an extra scoring drive in there on us, and be more around 21, but
it's possible.
And I do think there's just given, I think Joshua Kelly's. I just feel like he third game back, he'll be a little tougher. I'm not sold on the defense I'm not sold on the defense being able to shut down any sort of, any sort of, peer level team,
sure.
Completely like that.
Sure.
Houston got 24. Obviously, I think there'll be more possessions in this game than there was in that Houston game. But I don't know. It's just I just have this feeling like UCLA is going to score a little bit more than we think. But I don't know why. I just think that they scored 14 in the first 2 games, but I don't think our defense is as good as any of the 3 teams they have played so
It's
far.
possible.
So I think maybe they get that 21, but we can. One thing that has me less worried, though, when I'm going back and forth with this analysis, because we know that Houston only put up 24, but like you said, Derek King was that quarterback that gave WSU fans fits, and WSU fits at times in that game. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson is particularly not the runner, like you said, that he is at all. Like he, taking out the sacks, he's rushed 22 times for 45 yards. So he's mostly just running to escape pressure, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And there's going to be pressure on him. So I'll be a little concerned if we don't get pressure on him when he drops back to pass, because 9 sacks in 3 games. I'm going to guess
the ball.
When you're only throwing the
ball,
how
many attempts do they
87
have? 87 attempts.
So he goes 96 dropbacks. And plus 96 dropbacks. I'm guessing a lot of his runs are escaping pressure.
Yeah.
Given that they're very low, low yards per carry.
Right.
He's probably just trying to get out of bounds or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's not that dynamic quarterback, and
nope.
They don't have a dynamic receiver on the level of, what was his name, Stevenson for Houston. They don't. They are probably similarly. Their best player is probably Kelly, and he hasn't shown much this year yet. And I think Felton is probably up there too. But so Felton, who they had at running back for 23 carries in the first game, is actually leading the team in receptions, yards, everything. If you're a Coug fan, you want something to be worried about, they do have a big old tight end. A big old tight end and Devin Asiasi, however you say his name. So
close enough.
He's 6'3", 260. Obviously we don't have anyone on defense that can body him up. So if you want something to worry about, you can worry about that. He's decently talented, he's got 16 yards a catch. So, decently explosive, decently talented, but really there aren't a lot of guys on that scare me. So really my belief in, them putting up more points than they've put up in the last couple games is not entirely founded, other than maybe I'm still a little skeptical on what our defense can do.
And that's fair. That's, there's nothing about that where you kind of go, we haven't seen anything that makes you think that they could put together a dominant performance,
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm not super worried about this going awry on defense.
Yeah.
I can see it going, maybe people it going worse, a little bit worse than you would hope, but I just don't see it going completely off the rails.
I tend to think we're going to be strong out of the gate if they do, if UCLA does end up scoring in the 3 touchdown range. I tend to think that maybe there'll be a little, third quarter lull, or maybe there's, a little
fourth
bit of
quarter.
Fourth quarter, they tack on 10 points or something.
Which,
that.
That's happened. WSU gave a garbage time touchdown to Northern Colorado, gave up a garbage time touchdown to Houston. So that could very well happen.
Yeah. So I like I said, I think everyone would feel much better if they could come out of the gate firing, looking good, looking sort of ready for Utah, and not sort of having more of a difficult time with UCLA than anybody else has had.
Well, and I think the crowd is going to be there for the crowd.
Yes.
It's going to be a hype. It's a sellout. People are going to be hyped, I think. Yep. I think WSU has done a sufficient job building up. Yep. And it's UCLA, so even if they're bad, people are hyped it's still a brand name that you can play. That's why WSU made it the all anthracite game. It's early in the season, the weather's good, all that stuff. It's gonna be a fun. People will be nice and lubricated for that 7:30 start.
Yes, they will.
But let's talk about the as always, the fun side of the ball now.
Yeah, well, let's take a commercial break first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll come back. And we're back.
All right, man. I have a fun stat for you.
Yeah, hit me.
UCLA thus far this season, UCLA's defense, 10.5 yards per pass attempt.
I feel like I should be doing that dastardly laugh that I did in that other podcast. Whoa, right? Like,
and that's against our boy Anthony Gordon, who's still up there at 10.9 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
Actually, I think raised his yards per attempt against Houston. So yeah, he's still crushing the world, and we got a UCLA defense that really what they're decent. Like SP Plus has them at 62nd, but really what they're good at has been stopping the run, or better at against the pass. Not so much.
Yeah.
Not, all three of their opponents have been over 9 yards a pass. Oklahoma was at 13, over 13 yards a pass.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wouldn't expect us to touch that number just because Oklahoma has that threat of the run and that different sort of things that Jalen Hurts can do. This just seems like another pass defense.
Here's another stat that'll blow your mind. Okay, so Cincinnati and San Diego State both have played UCLA, right? 1/3 of their games have come against UCLA's terrible pass defense. And those two teams are 93rd and 110th in passing yards per game. So, these are two teams that got the benefit of playing UCLA and also are among the bottom, 20% of teams in terms of throwing the ball. So there, it's not just that they are, and by the way, it's not just a yardage thing. I mean, San Diego State's their passer rating is 119.5, which is a very, very low number for college. And I think, Cincinnati's 129.24, so they're bad also. So it's not like it's just they're not throwing it very much. They're really just not throwing it very efficiently either.
Yeah, San Diego State was 23 of 31, 293 against UCLA.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati was 18 of 26 for 242. And these are teams that don't necessarily want to run the ball a lot. Pass the ball a lot because they're not particularly good at it.
Yeah.
And they're still putting up 9 yards a pass, which is a lot.
A lot.
Yards per pass.
A lot.
It's that's if Gordon continues on this and finishes the season over 9 yards a pass, then he's having one of the greatest. Yeah,
one of the great seasons ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I didn't expect to see this from them, but it's just, they're pressure wise. They have 4 sacks on the season. Half of those came against San Diego State, I think. So I'm not too worried about pressure on Gordon. And obviously I'm not too worried about our receivers getting open, especially with the emergence of Brandon Arconato just being open whenever Gordon needs him to be.
Yeah, pretty much all the time, right?
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe he's benefiting from the fact that, he's got Travell Harris and Renard Bell and Desmond Patton, Easop Winston, Tay Martin, who may or may not play, and Roderick Fisher just kind of taking up attention, but he's just always been there. He's been extremely reliable. Once again, 100-yard game. I don't know. It seems like Houston tried to focus on the outside receivers more, particularly Patman and Easop. But they still both had long touchdowns.
Yeah.
Particularly Patman, when he came in the game, I feel like they focused on him quite a bit. because he was double covered when he caught that touchdown, but he had beaten both men, the safety and the corner. But yeah, I don't know what, like it's kind of funny that maybe Patman has attracted that attention, probably because of his physical, like, just appearance. I mean, I think he's our best receiver, but like the drop from him to Aesop is like almost indistinguishable, because if you look at the season that Aesop is having, it's insane. He's already got 4 touchdown catches, and so it's just it's crazy. I don't know if UCLA will do that same thing. They'll focus on one player, and as it doesn't seem like that's going to impact Gordon in any way whatsoever. He's just going to throw to the guy who's open. And he likes to throw the guy who's open downfield as well, which is nice. That's how you get 10.9. So yeah, man, I'm thinking some big numbers again for Anthony Gordon here. 400 plus, 4 or 5 touchdowns again.
Yeah, I mean that's like it's hard to come up with a reason why he wouldn't, right? Like, you know, about the best reason I could think of why he wouldn't is, oh, he can't throw for 400 yards every game, can he? like it's going to stop at some point, right? I mean, Utah's probably where that ends, just because, Utah's defense is good, and that's another game where possessions might really actually be limited. So, whatever, but it's hard to find reasons why this would be the game where he maybe has a bit of an off game, barring like some sort of, bizarre weather event or something, which I presume there's nothing like that headed towards Pullman.
It's not looking like that's happening. It'll be about, high 50s, not much wind.
Yeah. So
no precipitation.
This strikes me as the kind of game, just again, from watching UCLA, as I said, they just don't look very well coached. And, when I'm watching them, I'm just thinking, like, this is the kind of game where, that maybe looks a little different than Houston, where, like, you referenced Arconato, where we just sort of peppered the middle of the field because, Houston seemed to be, at least I'm presuming, right? I'm no scheme expert, but it's like, if Gordon is repeatedly throwing to the middle of the field, I presume that's because Houston is doing something to try and, out leverage them on the outside. So that's where the ball's going, right? UCLA just doesn't look like a team that can execute that sort of thing. And so I imagine the ball's going to be flying everywhere. And it also strikes me as the kind of game where you could have, 2 or 3 pretty long plays because UCLA botched a thing, right? Like where, somebody's running free that's not supposed to run free, and they break off a 50-yard or 60-yard touchdown, or Max Borghi, maybe there's a couple of missed tackles, and then, somebody has over pursued and Borghi breaks off a 50-yard touchdown, something like that, and maybe multiple somethings like that. I think there's a pretty reasonable chance that this game just sort of looks like that, where you just kind of look at UCLA and go, that is a team that's a total mess. And I think if you can, I think this is a narrative that's going around a little bit right now, but I'm buying it. It's the idea that, if you can get out by a couple of touchdowns, I mean, they really, really might just roll over, and that might be it. So, if you don't let them hang around, and we saw this however many times in the Wolf years, right? Like, you maybe if they could just hang around for a half or something. I mean, they obviously didn't have the talent to finish anything off, but there were times where it was like, they're hanging around a little. And then there were other times where it was like bang, bang, down by 2 touchdowns, and that was it. Like, it was done. So right. I think UCLA's in a position where if we can go bang, bang, touchdown, and they don't even have to be like bang, bang, like quick scores, just, score on your first 2 drives, keep them out of the end zone on the first 2 drives, and they literally might just fall apart.
If you were Leach, if you were the coach, would you, and you won the toss, would you pick defense or offense?
Offense. So
even with, the crowd's going to be hyped and screaming and yelling?
Yep. I want to score. I score points, son. I want scores. I want touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that's typically what you want to do when you're the team that is better.
Yeah.
Just get try to get that early lead and bury any hope.
Particularly if you think you're playing a team that might just quit if you can do that. So, yeah. Yep. I like the idea of trying to score first and kind of keeping that pressure on the other team. And I know the crowd's going to be hype and all that stuff, but they'll be hype for the second drive too. So.
Well, yeah, it's pretty funny. Like, it's not going to be like the level of the game day game against Oregon last year, but it was crazy how hyped the crowd was after Minshew threw an interception.
Yeah.
Like, it just came
Yep.
out.
I was actually just thinking of that as I was saying that was a game where we had the ball first, didn't score, and then people were still, going bonkers.
But I think the students, as we've talked about for the first 2 games, we were playing nothing opponents, and they've filled the student section, and they've come out and they've yelled and screamed, they've been loud. I think they'll be out there and they'll be hyped the first game. It'll look very strange if people actually do wear a bunch of anthracite.
Yeah.
Like, I've got my anthracite ready to go, but
okay.
that'll look we'll have this little grayscale crowd.
With little flecks of crimson and white sort of, sticking out off the sweatshirts or whatever.
Yeah, I saw the 2, they're giving away 10,000 t-shirts, but honestly, it's not really going to be t-shirt weather. Like, you can, if I have the chance to wear a hoodie, I wear it all the time because I love wearing a hoodie. Like, I'm like 55 degrees, I'm wearing that hoodie.
Yeah.
I want to. But the students, so I'm guessing most of those shirts will end up in the hands of the students anyway.
Yeah. And they'll wear shirts because, whatever.
Whatever. Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it should be fun. Should be a fun day in Pullman.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to beating LA, and I just UCLA is just not looking great right now, and we're looking pretty damn good. So
yeah.
So Jeff, score prediction.
I'm gonna go 45-13.
Ooh,
total.
Just crushing that spread.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to cover as well, but I'm going to go 42-21.
Yeah, that's good. I know Vegas seems to sort of have us pegged a little better this year.
Yeah, we're not fooling anyone anymore.
We've lost 2 in a row against the spread, so.
Yeah. And
But,
because of late touchdowns.
I know.
It's nonsense.
Stupid late touchdowns.
Yeah.
I know. I got a question on Twitter from someone because I wrote my Monday column and said, hey, if you leave off the last drive by Houston, this is what the stats look like. And the person was like, well, why'd you leave the last drive off? It's not like it was garbage time. And I was like, it kind of was. It's like maybe it wasn't strictly garbage time.
It wasn't strictly garbage time. I'm sure,
but, there were 3
not.
minutes left in the game and we were up by 2 touchdowns. So, whatever, I guess. But, yeah. Finish. We need 4 quarters, Craig. Complete game. Let's go.
Well, if then it wouldn't have taken away that touchdown from our boy Max, then maybe Houston.
Yeah. Then we would have won by like 4 touchdowns.
Exactly. Momentum, baby.
That's some butterfly effect shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. We're feeling good.
Yeah.
Another looking to move to 4-0. We want that. We want it to happen.
Yep.
And I feel like it's going to happen. So, all right. Subscribe if you're listening right now. Go ahead and hit subscribe. If you're already subscribed, go ahead and rate us 5 stars. Leave us a little comment.
We read them.
We read them.
We do read them. Even the bad ones.
Yeah, and go ahead and send us questions at podcastversuseveryone@gmail.com.
Yep.
Or at podversuseveryone at twitter.com or at Craig Powers on Twitter. We've gotten a few emails lately. Maybe we'll have a segment where we talk about them. So go ahead and let us know what you want. Dude, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.